Hey, good morning, everybody. Well, I talked about this in a rational rant that you may have saw. Well, I discussed a lot of things. But I thought I'd finally give it its own individual video. I'm pretty sure over the past few weeks you have heard about a certain situation going on with a certain gaming company. A gaming company that last year, believe it or not, I defended. I'm not joking here, folks. Last year I defended and said it's tradition for them to do what they do. But this being reported is not tradition. I mean, literally, I have articles here from, let's see, joystick.com, Gaming Blend, GamesBeat, VentureBeat, and AngryJoe.com. Articles, folks, all on the same freaking thing. Now, it states on the title of this article for said gaming company that the crossover game they announced last year, the crossover fighting game they announced last year, that their version, not the one that's coming out by the other gaming publisher that they're working with on it, that's doing, the other gaming publisher that's releasing their version later on this year, but this gaming company, which has had a history of doing some things that have literally pissed the hell out of fans. The title indicated right here states that said gaming companies crossover fighting games DLC, which was discovered, believe it or not, before release, of being on the disc. That's right. In case you don't know, the DLC that you usually download later on off of your PSN networks or your game marketplace on your Xbox Live or your Wii shop, on your Nintendo Wii. Well, apparently that DLC is on the disc as we speak. Now, according to the title here, it says, said game company, crossover fighting game, DLC on disc to ensure compatibility. That's right. The crossover game that was announced by both companies last year with this company's version being released just this past week, and the other gaming companies being released later this year, are basically saying this is the reason the DLC is on the disc is to ensure compatibility. Now, here's what it says, and I quote. I might change things a little so I don't name anything because I'm pretty sure a lot of people know who I'm talking about or what I'm talking about. And I quote, over the weekend, and this was an article on March 5th, so it's not that old. It's about 13 days old, so it's not even 2 weeks. But this article published on March 5th indicates, and I quote, it states, over the weekend it was discovered that the forthcoming downloadable content for said crossover game, let's just call it SXT, already exists on the game disc itself. Let me repeat that. Over the weekend, it was discovered that forthcoming downloadable content, DLC, for SXT already exists on the game disc itself. Meaning that purchasing said content actually boils down to simply unlocking it. Some fans were riled by the revelation, enough so that Capcom has issued a statement on the matter. Okay, so I named the company there. That was my mistake. I'm sorry. But according to the publisher, the DLC was placed on the disc in order to save hard drive space and to ensure a smooth transition when the DLC is available. Said company community manager elaborated that including the DLC on the disc will allow users to play against one another regardless of whether or not they have purchased the DLC. Having a single unified version of the game allows everyone to participate in the update without additional patches or hiccups. So in other words, they're saying, hey, you know that DLC you're going to get later on? It's already on here so that when you probably do download it, instead of unlocking it, you won't have no problems. They probably are thinking that people are going to do other things. They're probably thinking right now, oh, well, people are probably not going to have enough time to play through the entire game and eventually unlock all these characters. That they're going to probably just wait later on till the DLC comes out and just download it so they don't have to go through that bullshit. Guess what? Fans like a challenge. They do. When the other gaming company that this one is working with, well, you know what, I'm just going to say it, Capcom and Namco. When Namco brought out Soul Calibur, the new one, there was a difference. They said when you pre-order the game from certain people, from certain stores, you'll get a code for a downloadable character. That's not in the game yet. But very shortly, obviously, after the game was released, they did bring that character out for download. That makes more sense, because at least you're telling people, hey, look, we know some of you probably won't get the version where you can get the code, but here you go. Now, to me, this excuse, this reasoning, doesn't make sense. Of course you're going to have hiccups and patches. Hiccups and everything. And yeah, you're going to have to patch the game no matter what. Look at THQ with WWE12. They are still patching up the glitches and the problems with that. So eventually you're still going to have to, upload. You're going to have to eventually have consumers download patches. There's always going to be that. But I continue on with this article, and I continue on. Another reason for the online disc content, said the community manager, is Comcast, not Comcast, but Capcom's, I'm thinking of Comcast and I apologize because they sound almost similar, is Capcom's promise to avoid a super version of XXT Tekken to Ultimate MV. Basically, what they're saying here says the reason for another reason for the on-disc content is Capcom's promise to avoid a super version of this crossover game, Tekken to UMVC3. Capcom's full statement can be found after the break. Now it continues on here. Capcom has confirmed that 12 new fan favorites will be available as downloadable content on the PS3, 360, and PS versions of the crossover game later this year. The playable characters will make their debut on the Vita system when the game is released this fall, with the console and PC versions receiving them as DLC soon after. The character information and files were intentionally included on retail versions of the PS3 and the 360 game to save hard drive space and to ensure for smooth transition when DLC is available, allowing players who choose not to purchase the content the ability to play against players that do. More specifics regarding pricing, dates, and other additional exciting DLC plans for the crossover will be shared at a later date. As a reminder, the retail version of the game will be the only disc-based version consumers will need to own, and all further upgrades will come from post-launch DLC. Now, the new characters fighting their way onto the crossover are from the street side: Blanca, Cody, Dudley, Alina, Guy, and Sakura. From the T side: Alyssa, Brian, Christy, Jack, Lars, Alexandrus, Lee, and Lee Wong. And then you got the two additional ones, Double M and PM, you know what I mean? So basically what they're trying to say, basically their reasoning for this is the DLC, if you choose to purchase it, from what I'm understanding here, it'll make things more smoother and compatible. That way when you go online with people, you won't have no hiccups. You won't have no problems. It's like I said, you're eventually going to have to do things like patches and all that anyway. But you know, that's not the only one. Take a look at this. Let me see if I can get this single. Here we go. This is from Gaming Blend. This is from Gaming Blend. And I quote, Resident Evil developer, this is a guy that went on Twitter, and he said this, and this is a Resident Evil developer saying that the crossover DLC is a scam. Now, the article starts off like this: Capcom has a number of defenders coming to the rescue during this whole disc-locked content fallout involving the crossover game with the other publisher. One person who isn't defending the company is the man who worked on Bayonetta, Beautiful Joe, Akami, Resident Evil, and other Capcom games, Hideki Kamiya. I'm sure, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. The former employee responded about what he thought about Capcom finishing content and locking more than 30% of characters, colors, customization features, costumes, present combos, and gems behind a paywall. And he responded the following. And he responded with the following response on Twitter via PS Beyond. Via PS Beyond. This is Hideki Kamiya's Twitter, courtesy of PS Beyond. And he says, Total agree RT at PRCat88. Sounds more like a scam if game content is intentionally withheld simply to squeeze more money out of a product. Now, oddly, continue. That was his tweet. That was Hideki's tweet that he put on Twitter. Now, continuing on with the article. Oddly enough, many gaming websites aren't covering this topic regularly for whatever reason, and maybe it's because they're enjoying themselves too much with Street Fighter X Tekken. That's right, I just said the name, so I apologize, but you pretty much knew what I was talking about at the beginning of this video anyway. Well, the game may be a great addition to the niche genre, the fighting genre, which I agree it probably is, because I haven't bought it yet, but I will. Yes, I will buy the game no matter what, because I love fighting games. Additional to the fighting genre, it doesn't detract from the fact that the means in which Capcom plans to make additional money on the game comes from locking out completed and finished content already stored on the game disc. Well, the argument is that gamers would never have access to the DLC if it weren't for a separate DLC budget. Okay, hold on. Well, the argument is that gamers would never have access to this DLC if it weren't for a separate DLC budget. I would have to countermand the argument by saying it would make zero sense to include a gem system and a color customization feature where the majority of all that content never would have been made into where the majority of all that content never would have made it into the game. That's not only a waste of resources but a waste of time, which admittedly Capcom has said was the reason that advertised features such as cooperative pair play didn't make it on to the Xbox 360 game. Basically, and I'll read that in another article, they're saying they didn't, because they ran out of time, they couldn't put, the online feature that allows you and a local player, let's say me and my teenage nephew, to play in a tag team match online against other people. Well, I'm not a big fan of this. I think Angry Joe, they do mention Angry Joe here, has at least done a good job of showing both sides of the argument and detailing why a move like this is both unfair and unsavory for the gaming community at large. To further that argument, one must question exactly how much disc-locked content is okay to be withheld from the game before major gaming websites finally step in to protect the consumers, readers, and gamers they supposedly cater their content to. Following up on heated comments from a senior vice president who claimed consumers just didn't understand the business of DLC, Capcom has recently issued a detailed layout of how they plan to roll out the disc-locked content, and some of the features will be free, like the first 12 colors and some additional gems. Further information on the PS Vita version and the DLC plans will also be announced this April. So basically, even though this former developer with the company is agreeing with everybody else that this whole DLC on the disc is bullshit. Basically, what the vice president is trying to say is that we don't understand. Now they have not yet seen it, but apparently they have released a layout of how they plan to do this. Now, how that is, well, let's go see, shall we? Because, let's face it, folks. Let's face it. I've defended Capcom. I have. I mean, look, I'm not going to say Capcom's a bad company. They're not. They've made good games and they've done the right thing at times. They've actually done pretty good. And I know some people may disagree with that, but they've done pretty damn good. But the truth is, you don't come out and say, hey, look, we're going to have this. You don't come out and make the same mistake you've made with other games like Resident Evil, which are more newer Resident Evil, or your other games. You don't do that. If you're going to do something, you say, hey, look, you come out and you say, this is what you do. You come out and you tell people there's going to be you be honest with them. You say, look, the DLC that we say you're going to get with the Vita later this year is going to be, those characters you're going to get with the Vita will be on DLC, but they'll be on the disc, but you got to unlock them still. Okay, here's the layout. And it states, and I'm reading this, Capcom, this is the article right here. I don't know if you can see that, but that's the article right there. But it states, Capcom has been under a firestorm of hate lately with the way they handled the release and disc-locked content for Street Fighter X Tekken. Today, and this was over this weekend, this was actually this past weekend, Today, the company has sent out word of what will be free and what will be paid for regarding all the content locked away on the disc. The news comes courtesy of the Capcom's community manager, where he revealed that they will start rolling out content, or rather allowing gamers to have access to the disc locked content for the game beginning April 3rd. This kicks off with 12 free colors. Keep in mind that 56 of the colors are locked. 3 new quick combo presets, 3 additional gem loadout slots, and 9 new gem packs, bringing the total to 60. It still hasn't been confirmed just how many gems are stored on the disc, though. As previously reported, costumes will be $1 per costume, or 80 Microsoft points, and you can also buy the packs in groups of 2 for Street Fighter and Tekken character sets for $13. Again, if you want all the costumes, it could cost up to $100. Also, all 12 fighters will be released this fall alongside the launch of the PS Vita version for the standard price of $20 or 1,600 Microsoft points. All 12 fighters will be available right out of the box for the PS Vita version of Street Fighter X Tekken. Take note, the color customization will not be complete. The free packs are just used as a way for damage control, but you still have to pay for the additional colors. No pricing has been set for the remaining 44 colors. We'll keep you posted with more information when it arrives. So basically, they're trying to calm the storm this upcoming month, which, as much as I hate to say it, I have to try to give them some credit for, but not all credit. The thing is, if you have the stuff on the disc already, no matter whether or not you're going to have it released later on that year, you can't, like I said, I'll give them credit. They're trying to calm the storm, but it's a storm that you cannot calm. It's a storm that you cannot calm until you do something right. Now, according to VentureBeat, or GameBeat, if you will, they say almost a similar thing. They say, this is an article that was published this weekend, as of March 17th, yesterday. This is basically the same thing. Shortly before the March 6th release of Street Fighter Cross Tekken for 360 and PS3, players uncovered notable content locked away on the retail disc, including 12 previously unannounced characters. Since then, a slew of costumes, character colors, gems, 2 more have been everything I've mentioned before have been all discovered on the disc. Capcom has confirmed this content was intentionally included and locked out, with plans to have consumers pay an additional fee to unlock them, to download them. Unless you're a hacker, of course, in which case you're already using the locked characters in ranked matches online. The 12 characters will cost $20 and will be made available much later this year after the Vita version is released, which will include them for free. The alternate costumes, however, will run $1 a pop, eventually adding up to an alleged $100 worth of DLC. Okay. Players will need to shell out more than an estimated $120 for content that currently exists on the crossover disc they already paid for. It seems Capcom's highly questionable DLC practices have gone largely unnoticed by the mainstream media, who have instead focused on the drama surrounding BioWare's troubled action/RPG and Mass Effect 3. Capcom fans, on the other hand, have seemingly had enough and have taken to various venues to various different venues to vent their frustration and announce the cancellation of pre-orders for upcoming Capcom products, and threatened complaints to the Better Business Bureau. That's right. They have threatened to give complaints to the Better Business Bureau. The Triple B, as they call themselves, the Triple B bit may seem somewhat unfounded until you take into consideration that Capcom also advertised a key multiplayer feature for the 360 version on Street Fighter Cross Tekken, only for players to find out after purchasing the game that said feature has been quietly dropped. The instruction manual also mentions the feature, and Capcom's response has more or less boiled down to the incentives, to an insensitive "oops are bad," an explanation that is outright false. And it is followed up with contradictory statements. These are statements. Check this out. One of them I've already talked about. The March 5th statement. This is March 5th. It is not possible to mix and match online and offline players for scramble battles and pair play battles. So you either have to have all players to be offline and local, so 4 players, 1 Xbox, or have all the players online, 4 players, 4 Xboxes. And this is the senior vice president that says it. Then March 13th. This is the March 13th counteraction by the assistant producer. Unfortunately, due to time and resource issues, we weren't able to get the feature into the Xbox 360 version, and we apologize to those players who were looking forward to it. So in other words, you got the assistant producer saying one thing, and you got the senior vice president saying something else. One is obviously, it sounds to me, the more believable explanation is from the assistant producer. Now, the issue of charging customers for additional content is becoming quite controversial and is one the industry is still struggling with. Recently, Resident Evil 2 director and Devil May Cry creator Hideki Kamiya, which I mentioned about his tweet, retweeted the following from a fan. Sounds more like a scam, like I was saying here. Sounds more like a scam if game content is intentionally withheld simply to squeeze more money out of a product. And Chimera totally agreed, said he totally agreed. It just basically, they're saying it just doesn't work at Capcom. This method just doesn't work at Capcom anymore. Now, basically what this is stating, again, overall they're all saying the same thing, but with different articles to let you know about it. Now, we get Angry Joe's article from blisterthumbs.com. And this was recently brought out over on the 14th. And it says, Capcom issues an apology over Street Fighter Cross Tekken's online co-op. Count me surprised. I think this is Joe talking about this. Yeah, it's Joe. Count me surprised. Capcom has issued an apology and explanation. Well, more like the developers themselves had to step in and clarify after the vice president and their assistant producers Inaria's previous explanation. Now, this is what they're saying. Hello, Street Fighter Cross Tekken players. This is the assistant producer. Again, we've been asked by some players of the 360 version about the 4-player co-op mode and why it doesn't work when 2 players team and resource issues team. I guess it didn't get it all or something. Well, basically he says the same thing. Due to time and resource issues, we weren't able to get the feature into the 360 version. We apologize to the players who were looking forward to it. Printer cuts off some of the things, I don't know why. Now, throughout the development process, he continues on apparently, there are times when new features are added, and we added a lot of them, and there are also times when we have to make tough decisions regarding things to cut. This was one of those times. This mode is supported in the PS3 version. However, since we tackled that earlier and found the architecture of the system to be more conducive to implementing it, this is the most content we've ever packed into a Street Fighter game. So we hope that there are plenty of other modes and features to keep everyone busy for a long time. Signed, the assistant producer. Now Joe counteracts that by saying there's no mention of the dislocked content. Clearly, Capcom couldn't stand by the senior vice president's statement that, again, it's not possible, so you have to either have players be offline and local, or have all players be online. Basically, 4 players, 1 Xbox, 4 players, 4 Xboxes. Now, Joe finishes off this article by saying, for those of you who called out Microsoft and said it was their fault, it's clear that wasn't the case. Odd that this is the feature that got cut, but yet they still had time to make those DLC characters. But still, at least they owed up to one of their mistakes. Still, are they going to stick to the guns? He's asking this question still, are they going to stick to the guns? They previously said they have no plans to patch this later. Listen, I like Capcom. This is Joseph saying this. Listen, I like Capcom games. I like Capcom games. Hey, so do I. I'm looking forward to Dragon's Dogma and Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City, but I'll be damned if I support practices like this. So, basically what he's stating is that just like anybody, we still like Capcom for who they are. We love the games they produce sometimes, even if it's a crossover game like this one. But the truth is, if you're going to do DLC, you don't include the DLC as dislocked content. DLC stands for downloadable content, so you download it. And besides dislocked content, you got different various statements here saying, oh, those that purchase it later this year, it'll make it smoother for those that don't. Basically, you're saying those that decide to play through the game and unlock the characters later on, you know, they won't have a hard time playing against those that later on decide to buy the DLC if they don't go through the whole game. How many people do you think are not going to do that? Heck, I played Marvel vs. Capcom 3. I played through the whole damn game with majority of the damn roster. I played, along with the help of my nephew, I played all the way through Sonic Generations, and on my own beat Sonic Generations. I played through all the WWE games and passed them, their story modes and stuff, and I've locked people that originally at first were thought to be DLCs. The truth is, folks, if you're going to DLC something, it's DLC. If it's going to be part of your fan access pass, if you will, like WWE 12, that's fine. If it's free, it's fine. Or if it's just 80 Microsoft points or $1, that's fine. But the truth is, folks, if you're going to do this, do it right. Now, again, I love Capcom. I think they do great games. When they worked with Disney back in the NES and Sega days, they did great games. Rescue Rangers, DuckTales, Tailspin, you name it, they did great games. Mega Man is their Sonic for their company. Just like Sonic is Sega's main guy and Mario is Nintendo's, Mega Man is their top guy, and people love Mega Man. They love Mega Man. But the thing is, you don't DLC. But the thing is, if you're going to do another popular icon or franchise for your company, which is Street Fighter, and cross it over with Namco's popular fighting franchise Tekken, you don't put the DLCs on the disc as disc lock content. You put them on out for DLC as downloadable. Yes, I admit, I appreciate, and I'm sure many of people that don't like what's going on right now could appreciate the fact that you want to save game space. You want to save hard drive space. We appreciate that. We appreciate the consideration, but you got to understand, even though we appreciate it, it doesn't work that way sometimes. We're used to doing DLC. And to quote what Joe said, yes, this is why people want to go digital. This is why Xbox started doing, along with PSN, with the PlayStation, with Sony, this is why Microsoft and Sony are starting to do the games on demand deal. This is why when you go to your game marketplace on either system, you see games on there that were recently released only a few months beforehand, or even a few weeks beforehand, and now they're on demand. You basically can download them onto your system and not have to buy anything, not have to buy the disc. But the truth is, hopefully, Capcom, like Joe has said, they've owned up to one of the mistakes. Let's just hope they finally learn a lesson here. And you know what? We can't totally blame Capcom sometimes either, because there are other gaming publishers out there that have done this crap. They have. Even movie companies have done it. So we can, with certain things. Not downloadable stuff, but you get the idea. But other gaming companies have done this too. So we can't totally say Capcom is mostly at fault for this. We can't really say that. Because other gaming companies have made mistakes. Heck, Nintendo made a mistake long ago. Nintendo, when they brought out Super Mario Bros. 2, didn't tell us at first. We had to find this out many years later, that Super Mario 2 was another game, just revised into Super Mario Bros. 2. Well, the original Mario 2 was later released as the Lost Levels, and later on was finally released as just itself, because apparently it was too hard. Get this, gamers like a challenge. And they probably would have loved Super Mario Bros. 2, the original Mario Bros. 2, to be out. Give them that challenge. But anyway, again, we can't totally blame Capcom for doing this. I mean, yes, they've done it probably a little more than other gaming publishers, but other gaming publishers like Nintendo, like Sega, you know, like BioWare and such, you know, they've made the same kind of mistakes. So we can't, like Square Enix has even done it. So we can't blame them entirely. Yes, they're at fault for what they did, and yes, believe it or not, Joe was surprised by this, they issued an apology. But they gotta realize, hopefully next time they do a game like this, that they realize, okay, what can we do? I mean, look at THQ. Brawl was supposed to be coming out this year, or at least next year. They put that on hold, so they make sure that WWE 13 is more ready and more accessible and ready to go for launch than 12 was. Because they're continuously patching up 12, like I mentioned earlier. But still, at least this is a good thing on Capcom's part, that they at least own up to one of the mistakes, and let's hope they learn. Because like I said, they're not the only ones at fault when it comes to this stuff. THQ already, like I said with WWE 12, has made some mistakes. They're currently patching things up, they're trying to fix it, that's fine. But you don't do this kind of stuff until it's ready to go. And hopefully when Namco brings out their version, Tekken Cross Street Fighter, it will probably be a little bit better, and maybe we'll have the downloadable characters there right off the bat. So, comment down below, tell me what you think, and I'll talk to you all later.